fantastic documentary. I really learned a lot. The intro was crazy. I loved the CG in it. Really felt real. The cinematography was wonderful. I love the nature shots. The history of transportation, such as the Silk Road, to the containers being the heart for everything now, was fascinating. I had no idea that the suspected terrorist tried to smuggle himself into Italy. That blew my mind. It's actually crazy that 250 million containers are moved annually. This was truly a fascinating documentary and was extremely engulfing. I highly recommend it.
Fascinating feature doc which explores in detail the idea that the world's economy has been shaped by the ability of countries to ship goods around the world in massive containers by air, sea, and land. It was a real eye-opener in that the film effectively contrasts globalization versus sovereignty of nations. I really enjoyed the interviews by a wide variety of experts describing the economic rise by the Chinese and their shrewd ability to create partnerships and trade routes around the world. I love the varied musical scores, the use of political cartoons, and the CGI of global maps showing various trade routes. It was a real history lesson for me. I was very interested to learn about China's history of dealing with the US, notably during the FDR presidency. I also appreciated the excellent montage of political movements and notable events in history at the end of the film. Great work.
This documentary is packed with a lot of information. They talk about globalization, the supply chains, the history of modern shipping methods, the diverse threats to safety that they've had to experience and tackle through time. They talk about Asian tigers, and mostly they talk about China's role as a global source for not only money or banks or loans, but for the world, but product manufacturing, calling it the workshop of the world, and the different trade negotiations China has accomplished within or outside the World Trade Organization framework. They also touch on the Chinese dream. That means they want to be the top global power that it's mostly obtained through abusing and ignoring every international law and conventions. They just want to overcome USA as the top economy, and I just thought this piece is very well researched and documented. It is quite relevant. They showcase interviews with and testimonials with different experts on the different topics they touch on. It was very informative. I found it objective, and it's just so shocking when they discuss things like the man-made islands, the different accords, the different shortages that we've had through history, and the disasters. It's just a lot. I am so glad I watched this. It's a great piece.
It was really informative. You know, it takes a good look at globalization and trade and like the history of trade and how that they work together. Like, you know, trade causes globalization and movement with different countries and creating trade routes and trade deals. And I think this documentary went to great lengths to like explain all of that and the history behind that and how countries interact with each other because of it. And I think it also drops like some cool fun facts along the way, as well as has like a variety of well-established and really knowledgeable individuals to speak on trade and globalization as well. I really enjoyed the different graphics as well, because I think they add to the piece as a whole and make it look, you know, more official. Even though the information that's already being portrayed in it was very official, it just adds like, you know, nice visuals to keep audiences engaged as well. So I enjoyed that. And overall, it was a really great documentary, super informative. It reminds me of something that I would have watched for my globalization courses in school. So really, really well done, and I enjoyed it a lot.
How intertwined our government and capitalism is, and how capitalism is kind of this force that like runs the world, and how they point out like it's faceless bureaucrats making deals like this. And I think it gives a lot of history and a lot of insight on foreign affairs, and it just shows another side of things that we don't think about as much, because capitalism really does kind of run the world, but you get the ins and outs of it. I thought it was really well structured, and it had a lot of good information and history, and it's just a good watch.
Very informative documentary about trade, and we learn about the American perspective on it. We learn a great deal about China and the immense influence they've had on global trade, how they've crafted things to their liking and necessity, how we have grown and evolved in our usage. It all really comes back to the box and to how innovative the cargo box and containers were to changing and reshaping how trade functioned. We learned so much information about the history of it all, how 9/11 influenced it, and where trade might even go in the future. It's very informative, especially for those who are interested in the topic of globalization as it particularly pertains to trade.
Wow, this documentary was very comprehensive on a lot of different topics. I thought it was well researched. The overall pacing of the entire thing was great. It really flowed well in between a bunch of different topics. The animation, amazing use of historical footage, great explanations. Specifically, I really liked all of the history of like the shipping containers and stuff, because I thought it was really interesting to learn about that, because it's so impactful on on the world. And this documentary really just like showed me some interesting things that I really didn't know. But yeah, it was good.
This was a thoroughly engrossing, highly informative, fascinating, and disturbingly insightful. This was a very well done, eye-opening experience. Very thorough, and it's about the history of the container and how the container is carried through. So many from the more agricultural to the industrial, and now into the digital age, and China, and it was not lost to me that the credits and the credits were in both Chinese and English. And so what I mean by the filmmaking of this, everyone should see this. I thought it was a little bit long. They probably could cut it down to about an hour and a half, but it's very, very good about today's economy in China and the USA, and tribalism and populism and isolationism versus globalism. And it was fascinating. And personally, I've always thought that our problems have always been more about economic class, than anything else. And this thing really touches on that amazingly, and just backs it up from start to finish and back again. Very well done. Excellent film. Congratulations to all the filmmakers. Everyone should see this.